like two or three.
Been busy.
Mm-hmm.
You
Very
you were
busy.
you were camping. I took a trip to Burlington, Vermont in the new Tesla Model 3 Highland.
You love
And
saying that. I don't know why you love saying that, but
you
you love
gotta
saying
say
that.
it because like people they want to know about this new
I don't like the
Tesla.
name Highland though.
Well, Elon doesn't like it either, but I use it because that's what people are searching for. um, but so yeah, we took a trip to Burlington, Vermont. It's about 300 miles away, but there's a lot of elevation and it's cold, right? So, the performance Model 3 driving like we do really only gets about 240 miles or something like that. Driving
Yeah.
at aggressive highway speeds.
Like
Two
80, 90 miles an hour.
Yeah, I'm not saying that, but it only gets maybe like 200, 240. Now, if you go to the long range with less power, or the standard, the long range rear wheel drive, those are going to go, at highway speeds over 300 miles, probably close to or over.
Yeah.
So I stopped halfway in between about 150 miles. I charged for about 15 minutes, and then I set the hotel as a destination because I knew they had destination chargers there, and I made sure they were working, right?
Yeah.
And there were superchargers I passed on the way. I could have stopped, but I'm like, we can
Ooh.
make it. So it
You
rolled
kept
in.
saying you could make it.
Yeah, and what you do is like if you're you on the Tesla you see arrival percentage, right? So if it goes to like -1 or something, you can just slow down a little bit, right? So it was
Oh,
saying,
that's a game I will not play.
well, you have to know how to play it if you have to, because like so when I charged at the supercharger, it said I would get to the hotel in Burlington, 100 is about another 150 miles away at 10%. So I'm like, okay, 10%, let's go. Now it started getting colder. There was like elevation, and I saw that number going down to like 5% as I was getting within 50 miles. So I slowed down to maybe 69 miles an hour, right?
Ooh,
So
69?
69, yeah. So just to lower the speed, then you increase your arrival percent. So I came in with 6% into the hotel,
Ooh,
which is okay.
That's tight, man. That's
Yeah. But I saw, when I got in, I saw a message on the screen that said, battery power very low, can't run all functions, plug in. So, we wanted to go get something to eat, right? 'Cause, we got in the hotel, but we had Jessica with us. I wanted to put her in dog mode, but it wouldn't turn
yeah.
on
Oh,
because the battery was so low, right? Um, so I was able to turn on dog mode once I plugged into the level 2 charger. I was able to turn on dog mode with the app. In the car, it only lets you turn it on if you're over 20%.
oh,
But
through the app though.
the app would let you do it. So I,
Oh,
put her in dog mode and used the app, and it turned on. But yeah, I mean, like a lot of these guys will come in at 0% all the time, but like
boy.
into a supercharger, into a hotel where you're not sure that the charge is going to work. Where it's a little bit.
I get nervous around 20%. I'm like,
Yeah,
I get
yeah. I mean,
but I don't think I ever go below. I don't think I've seen below 30%.
you haven't really. Yeah, Brandy
I
either
don't think
probably.
so.
Yeah, I come in like on the way back to that supercharger. I came in at 9%, so I gave it a little bit more buffer.
Ooh,
Yeah, so you can get good at it. I mean, a lot of these guys will come in at 0 or low, because in the Model 3 you probably have 20 miles below 0 at like lower speeds.
20 miles
But
below
you don't
zero.
want to
That's
count
good
on
to
it.
know.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
kind of like, when your fuel is like at that line, you
yeah.
know how much more you can go.
It's like the reserve, and like some EVs have more reserve than others. Like the Rivian is, when it's at 0, it's at 0, and so you want to bring that thing in like above 0, 10%,
Yeah.
probably minimum.
Yeah.
Because in the
No,
recovery process is harder on the Rivian if the battery does go dead.
but what does that do for like the health of the battery when you go that low?
It doesn't hurt as long as you're charging right away. Like if you don't want to leave it at like 6% and then go away for a month or something. You want to, if you're on a road trip and you're coming in with low percentage, as long as you're going into a charger right away and charge back up to 80, you're good. You just don't want to leave it sit at that low percentage, because the high voltage battery has to keep the low voltage battery charged, and it will
Yeah.
hold his drain and all this. So it's fine when you're on a road trip. It's fine to come in at a lower percent if you're comfortable with it.
So like a level two charger, how long did it take you to take it from like that level to 80%?
Oh,
Do you
overnight,
recall? Or
overnight, like
overnight?
yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, we came at the end of the day, just plugged it in. The morning was full, full
Yeah.
again.
There
Um,
you go.
so yeah, that worked out well. Burlington's a beautiful city. I haven't been there in a long time. Um, and a lot of EV chargers. Like it's like a
Oh, that's
college
good.
town. A lot of EV chargers. Saw some Rivians up there, but that was good.
A lot
But
of Tesla or just like all different types. A lot of
I saw
Tesla
some
chargers, maybe?
Rivians. A lot of Teslas. It's funny. Like I only see there's other EV. You see like Chevy Bolts and GM's coming in with like Equinox and a lot of other things now. But mostly, I really just see Teslas and Rivians on the East Coast.
Yeah.
You too. You
We have
see
a
a lot of
lot.
them. You see a lot of Rivians out there too.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot. Okay, so I've always seen a lot of Teslas
Hmm.
just like way
Huge.
like on the freeway,
Yeah,
you know. I'm not lying, thousands. Just like that.
that's good.
It's
That's
kind of
good.
crazy. And then like the Rivians are really starting to I'm starting to see a lot of Rivians for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Because there's really like I think a lot of people like the electric cars, but the look of the Tesla is very, they're looking for something different,
Very
really, at
generic.
the end of
Yeah,
the day. And I
yeah.
see a lot of trucks too.
Oh yeah. I think I don't know the Cybertruck. It's just not a good look. I do like the engineering. I prefer the Rivian. I mean, the Cybertruck's
Yeah, I don't like the
engineering's
look.
better. Yeah, but
I
the
would
look,
agree.
the brand of the Rivian brand it's like adventurous, which is really cool. Like they're putting
Yeah.
their, high speed DC fast chargers like in areas that where you go for like camping or
But
adventurous areas.
my eye is on that one that you mentioned before, the R1 or
The
something like
R
that.
three, the R3X, the little
Yeah.
hatchback. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that
That if when that comes to market, it's maybe that's gonna maybe replace the Model 3 Performance for a lot of people.
yeah, that might be one.
I'll still have one. I'll still have one and keep a Rivian too because I want to know about all the software, all the changes, and I have to update my viewers on all the on all the changes. So, all right, let's get into some
Okay.
Wi-Fi stuff, though. Okay. So,
Wi-Fi.
what's the first thing we wanted to talk? First thing I wanted to talk about was the new pricing on the EnGenius Cloud products. Right. I'll put
Yeah.
that up, but it was back in July. I just want to make sure that all the customers know that it's been repriced. Some things like MSRP's gone down like 50%. Right.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was already for what it offered a really good proposition. Now it's even a more valuable product line because one, it has a 5-year warranty, right, and all the
Yeah.
hardware, even outdoor,
Yeah.
right, even outdoor.
I
EOS
I think so. I think
ECW
it's still
260
yeah.
is 5 year, yeah. So
I should
anyone,
know that. I'm the
anyone
one
that
that got that.
and we know that a lot of the ingenious outdoor access points and bridges last a long time anyway.
Oh man, I mean we have people call us that have it had stuff up for like 10 years.
Yeah. So it
It's like,
does.
wait, there's like many technology changes. You should change.
But it's still working. So yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, we know that the hardware is really good quality, and they're backing up with a 5-year warranty, right?
Yeah.
Another thing is these full cloud EOC ECW access points have they have a lot of processing power. They can handle high loads and features that the cloud offers, right?
Yeah, so you can yeah, even like I'll give you an example. So like when we first launched cloud, we launched the ECW 120,
Right.
right? Remember that one?
Yeah.
And we started launching like Wi-Fi 6, right?
Yeah.
And we started adding more and more features. But there, you'll notice with the 120, like which is Wi-Fi 5, it's a 2x2. Like we'll put a note in there. This is not supported on the 120, or it's not supported on the Wi-Fi 5 because there's just not enough resources on the 120. Like there's not enough memory, there's not enough
Right.
processing power for this device to do all these things.
Right.
It does like really, really basic stuff, right? So, and so like all the newer Wi-Fi 6 and Wi-Fi 7 access points have those resources. They have the memory, the CPU. and they have like new componentry. So, and the Ethernet ports to support all the throughput now. So it supports those devices support so much more.
Yeah, and so I mean, if you're an installer, an AV installer, going in to do a large job in a hotel, school, or something
Hmm.
like that, you have to use the full cloud access points. Those are the ones you want to use, right? That's what they're made for, is professional installed equipment.
Yeah, yeah, and I would say the big thing with like that price refresh, right? So like we're moving up market, but we understand that we're like an SMB company.
Yeah,
That's like the heart of like EnGenius, right? So what we're trying to do is find this balance of like having all these advanced features, but with the price point that people can expect in the SMB market. So
right.
we're giving them as many advanced features as possible for different scenarios, but also giving them the hardware that they want that will work really well and will be reliable with like the price points that they need.
For sure, for sure. And I mean, it's an end-to-end solution with the gateway, switches, and indoor and outdoor access points, wall plate access
That's
points,
right.
everything. So we know they all work well together. Don't go out and try to buy something off Amazon and sell it as a installed, professionally
You
installed
don't want to do
solution.
that to yourself. I
Yeah, you don't
mean,
want to do
like
it to yourself or
margin-wise,
your
you don't want to do
customer.
that.
Right.
Margin-wise and like on the performance side. So anybody that's buying through like a system integrator expects like quality, like high quality, like devices, right?
Right. Right.
Because they're paying for your services,
Yeah.
they're paying for your expertise. So they expect you to be aware of like, okay, what you're putting in this my home or my business is like business class or enterprise class.
Yeah. And talk a little bit about about the channel widths and things like that for business class, right? And why it's that way.
Yeah, so you and I have always kind of talked about this, and it's like goes with best practices, but a lot of the more consumer residential products on the radio side, you can choose the channel width,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you have anywhere from as low as 20 megahertz wide channels to all the way up to 160 megahertz wide channels, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you can kind of see that in like the speeds of access points. Like you can see, oh, up to 3.5 gigabit
Yeah.
per second, which is an aggregate speed. But the only way you can get up to those speeds is if you can have like super wide channels. Well, like in businesses, you do not want to use super wide channels
Right.
because you have more interference, and you want to go to narrower channels because you have more access points. You're trying to cover a small business that's like 5,000 square feet. You might have 5 access points in there. They're going to conflict with one another. So when you go to wider channels, you're bonding channels together. You have less channels to use. So you definitely want to use more narrow bands like 40 megahertz and 20 megahertz in those scenarios. So if you're looking at access points that have 160 megahertz wide channels, it probably was not designed for these larger kind of deployments. Would you?
Right. And you wouldn't want to use it on these deployments, and they're and they maybe ship 5 gigahertz for
Oh yeah,
40 or 80, right? Like if you have less access points, you probably can do 80, but if you have a lot, you may want to switch down to 40, and they probably don't ship in the highest setting, right? Because this is a business class access point, and you don't want the
right.
interference. And you're sharing an internet connection throughout like this large business. You don't need to have it on every single access point.
Yeah, the other factor is like your neighbors, right, are
Neighboring businesses.
broadcasting as well. Your
Yeah.
business neighbors, your residential neighbors, they're broadcasting as
Right.
well. So you're going to interfere with them. And I would say even the consumer type stuff or the stuff that goes into like residential, um, by default they're on 160
Yeah.
because the vendor wants you to experience the fastest speed possible. So they'll put you on 160 megahertz. But if you have two of those in there, or if you have a neighbor,
Yeah.
you're actually going to do a lot of damage.
It'll
And
be
you won't get the
slower.
higher speeds,
Right. It'll be
and you won't know
slower,
why.
and you'll drop your streaming will drop and all this stuff, right? So,
Yep.
so yeah, that little bit of best practices there. And another talking about best practices. There's another new feature in the EnGenius Cloud, right? It's a little
Yep.
looks like a little magician's wand. I'm putting up a screenshot.
Yep. Like a wizard's wand or something. Yeah.
Yeah, wizard's wand. Yeah. So, um,
Harry Potter.
Yeah. So basically, that's a best practices icon, right? Where you don't have to dig
Yep.
through all of the help to try to figure out what you should configure these at. Now, sometimes people will get these access points and they're like, I want to make it faster. They'll go in, they'll start changing everything, right?
Yeah.
Like we just talked about, they'll change it to the highest, 160 megahertz, 320 megahertz channel widths. They'll set the minimum speeds to like they'll make all these changes, and then they'll call us, hey, it's not working. Like this is terrible.
Yeah.
I had this happen to me, lots of times, right? So this, for one, don't change anything when you get the access points. Put it in a default. Try it for a while.
Yeah.
Make sure it's working for you. Then slowly make changes if you need to, right?
Yeah. Wouldn't you agree that like when you put an access point in for the first time, you have to kind of let the dust settle a little
Let
bit?
it settle, yeah.
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 And then you can go in and make your changes. The access points are trying to figure out like what's the cleanest channel. There's channel changes happening and things like that. So you definitely kind of have to wait a little bit and then go in and change.
And for like an AV that guy that goes into someone's home, sets the stuff up, they want to set it up and show them that it's super fast and leave. Like that's what they want to do. And that's kind of, these are the best practices, right? Like you should adhere to these.
Yeah, exactly.
And it may take, and with the cloud, you can go back in there and do speed tests remotely after it's settled, right? Like we said.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and then the other thing, I mean, we've talked about this too. You can use a tool like Hamina, for example.
Yeah.
To kind of, or Ekahau for that matter, but you can use tools like that to go in with the mind and have an idea of like what you want to do within like that particular environment, right? So you can use like the Sidekick, for example.
Yeah.
I think Hamina has one now that you can go in and you can kind of test the environment and understand like the interference levels and things like that, and then go and make adjustments or whatever.
Yeah, it works with the Y-Pri clarity from Ostium. We talked in the last podcast. We talked to those guys. So yeah, there's tools you can use, but these best practices will show you what you should do to configure in the different environments that you might be in. So it's an easy way to drill down to get those settings. Now, there's been a couple other changes, like on the gateway, the policy routing, right? That's new.
Yep.
So this is I put up a screenshot of that. This is a pretty advanced feature, layer 7 policy routing. So if you have two internet connections, WAN 1 and WAN 2, you can say, hey, I want all my voice over IP to go out over WAN 1 and my web browsing go out over web 2, right? Like you could configure it like that.
Yep.
So this is a new feature. I haven't tested it yet. I'm sure it's going to take a little bit of tweaking, but for people that have two internet connections with the ESG set as failover, which I have a few that are using it like that, and you do need a pro license for this feature. So I wouldn't say it's like it'd be for a business that wants to make the full use of both of those connections.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I like to see how it works. Like if in a failover situation, hopefully it sends all the traffic out one WAN. Doesn't still try to policy route. We'll have to check that. But yeah, that's another great feature that they just added. So EnGenius is continuously adding features to the cloud.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
There's a new one I was going to mention, but I'll wait.
Yeah, we'll wait. Let's wait till next week on that one. But anything else you want to talk about this week?
Nope, I think that's it.
All right, what do you do? You going camping this weekend?
Going camping
in awesome.
Malibu.
You're camping more than I am. Damn, I wish the weather was better out here. All right, remember to like and subscribe. We'll be back next week. Talk about some more Wi-Fi.